Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What's with the World. I'm your podcast host, and my name is Bella. Um, by the way, sorry if you can hear noise in the background. It's very, very windy outside right now, and so yeah, if you hear some rustling, that's what it is. Well, unless you live under a rock, I'm pretty sure that you've heard by now that Joe Biden is now the president-elect of the United States of America, and Kamala Harris is the vice president-elect. So today we will be talking about the results of the 2020 election and the causes for its outcome and the reactions of both candidates. So first, let's talk about how the votes were counted, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion. I'm 16, and up until last year, I thought that literally it would just be whoever got the most votes from individual citizens adding up would win. But no, how it works is basically states are divided into districts, and each district is responsible for counting their citizens' ballots. And based on the majority of the county, so if majority of its citizens voted democratically, then the county would declare itself democratic, and that would be an electoral vote for Joe Biden in this case, or in more generally the Democratic Party, whoever that candidate representing that party may be. So the more populous a district is, the more people living there, the more influential their overall stance is. So there was a lot of confusion about that on states such as Nevada. So if you would look at Nevada on a state map, the Electoral College map, you would see that majority of its districts were red, but there were various blue districts, and because those blue districts have more population, more dense population, their votes counted more, therefore turning Nevada Democratic. So it doesn't really matter the amount of counties that vote for a party, it just matters the amount of citizens. Each state has a certain number of districts that their state is divided into, and each state is assigned a certain amount of electoral votes based off their population. So, for example, California is the biggest, and not the biggest, but the most populous state in America. So, California has the biggest number of electoral votes. They have 55 electoral votes. So, yeah. 48 out of the 50 states, besides Maine and Nebraska, use a winner-take-all system. So what that means is, let's say Joe Biden wins 48% of the state, and Trump wins, let's say, 36. It doesn't matter. Those 36% of people, their votes don't really count towards anything, because in a winner-take-all system, it's just whoever gets the most takes all of the votes. So in California, even if Trump gained 20% of the vote, that doesn't matter because it's a winner-take-all system. If Biden gained the most votes, he's going to take all 55 electoral votes. So every state in America does this besides Maine and Nebraska. And Maine and Nebraska use a proportional system. So let's use the same example. If Biden were to win, let's say, 48% of the vote and Trump were to win 30-something of the vote, then 30% of those votes would go towards Trump, and 48% of their electoral votes would go towards Biden. So, personally, that makes more sense to me because I feel like people get represented in a better way, but as of right now, 48 out of the 50 states of America use a winner-take-all system. If you've been keeping up with the election, you may have heard the term the road to 270 electoral votes. And what exactly that means is that, as we talked about before, the Electoral College is based off a panel of electors, and there are 538 electors, and they are assigned based off of districts, the districts of the states, and so there are a total number of electors. There's 538 electors. So when we say a candidate needs 270 electoral votes to win the election, we're talking about the majority, because the majority of 538 is 270. So majority rules, again, like a winner-take-all system. So Biden reached 270 electoral votes first, so he won the election, or he's declared the winner so far. And although we have already declared Biden the elected winner, things could actually change, because November 3rd is election day. It's when we count the ballots, it's when people are done casting ballots, but that's not actually when a president is officially declared the winner of an election. December 14th is actually the official like, can't take it back secure date. And that is when the electors from the Electoral College cast their ballots. And these electors cast their ballots in favor of the candidate that their district favored. So they're kind of just representing an entire district, one person representing X amount of citizens, which just kind of keeps the system more organized. But one can argue that it's less of a democracy if there's one person representing so many people, because then a majority or a large amount of people are being overlooked. So December 14th is when the Electoral College casts their ballot, so that's when it becomes official. And that's when 270 electors need to cast their ballots in favor of the same candidate that the citizens have chosen. But electors from the Electoral College can actually vote against the people that they're representing, and they're called faithless voters. And so that's when they don't really trust what their citizens are saying and they go against them. This hasn't really happened in past elections, but it is possible. It is in the electors from the Electoral College's power to cast against their citizens, and this can actually change the outcome of the election. It's very, 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 very unlikely that someone would do this because it's unfair and you're not properly representing the people who you have pledged to represent, but it is still a possibility. So just to sum it up, that's how voting works. We vote in our districts. The districts count our ballots. They declare themselves for a certain party, and they give X amount of electoral college votes, and whichever candidate reaches 270 electoral votes first, aka the majority, wins or is declared the elected presidential candidate or the elected successor. And that usually happens on November 3rd. In this case, it took a little longer in this election just because it was so close that it took longer to go through each ballot and really make sure that they were getting it correct. But officially, the candidate is chosen on December 14th when the Electoral College casts their ballots. So obviously, in any election, there are going to be a lot of people who are disappointed with the outcome, claiming fraud, but more so in this one, definitely, there have been a lot of crazy accusations going on questioning the integrity of the election. One of them being that there were more ballots cast in Wisconsin than registered voters. A lot of people have been claiming this one, claiming fraud, that the election basically has lost its integrity, but this has actually been a false accusation that has been debunked. There were not more ballots cast in Wisconsin than registered voters. That was a very popular accusation I saw, so I just wanted to bring it here, just in case you or someone else believes this. It's totally fine, because a lot of time it's easy to believe in fake news, but just so everyone knows, that was a false accusation. Another one was that 300,000 ballots are missing from Florida, and this is currently under investigation. It has not been debunked that I know of. But yeah, and this one was kind of important because Florida is a flip state, or a swing state, so it could have gone Democratic if those 300,000 missing ballots were for Joe Biden, or if most of them were. At this point, it doesn't really matter because Joe Biden still was able to reach over 270 electoral votes without Florida, but it still would be important to see where Florida is truly standing on the spectrum. The FBI has also not indicated any suspicion of foreign intervention or influence on the election. So far, they don't have any evidence. And in my opinion, what I think is that states and districts would not risk casting false ballots or manipulating them, because this could definitely indefinitely lead to federal imprisonment. So I don't think that states would think it is worth the risk, especially the people working at ballot places. I just don't think that they would risk being imprisoned a big crime to just swing a few ballots or cast a few ballots in the favor of a certain candidate. I don't think that that's something they would do, but still, there are recounts going on in swing states and the close states such as Georgia and Pennsylvania, but nothing thus far is expected to change. Trump has filed lawsuits in multiple states. Some have been denied, but lawsuits do take time to go through, first of all, lower courts. They have to go through lower courts if he wants to reach the Supreme Court. And they might not even favor Trump. They might favor Biden or the state and say that, no, these ballots weren't manipulated, everything is fair. So there is a big risk with Donald Trump filing a lawsuit, but as we know, he's a fighter. He's not going to go down without a fight. He's going to do everything he can to maintain his power. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't expect anything to change in regards to the lawsuits and changing the stance of states. And even if this does reach the Supreme Court, a lot of people are worried because majority of the Supreme Court is now Republican, especially with Amy Coney Barrett now being in the Supreme Court. But the judicial branch holds is very highly esteemed. It's the highest court in America, so I don't think that they would vote for Trump simply because they are Republican. They would have to justify themselves and answer to the people and answer to themselves, so I don't think that it's going to be biased in the Supreme Court. I sure hope it won't be, because that would just basically violate the integrity of America, because that is a huge branch, one of the three main branches in the U.S. And even if it does reach the Supreme Court, it takes a long time, and by then the Electoral College might have already casted their ballots on December 14th, which then makes it official. There's no going back. So now let's talk about both of the candidates' reactions to Vice President Joe Biden being now the elected President of the United States. So Trump's reaction, he is obviously not very happy. As we know, when things don't go his way, he tends to not accept defeat, I guess you could say, or not fall with grace. So his reaction is that he questions the integrity of the election. Obviously, as we have already talked about, multiple lawsuits have been filed. He has not accepted defeat. He has not congratulated Joe Biden because he does not believe that he has actually lost. As I said, multiple lawsuits. He's called for recounts in multiple states, but, as I've said before, nothing is expected to change. These states took a long time. As we know, this was more of an election week than an election day. These states did it very carefully. They counted these ballots with intention. So we predict that he's not going to go down without a fight, that this could be an ongoing thing. And around this time, when there is a new elected president, the current White House staff would be teaching the incoming White House staff on how to run things, give tips, things like that. But that's not happening right now because Trump denies that he has lost, and they are not legally obligated to help the incoming White House staff. So it might not even happen at all if Trump, just denies that he's lost, or if he doesn't want to help Biden, his staff is not required to. He still believes, as we've seen in a tweet that was posted yesterday, so November 7th, the day before I'm posting this, that he believes that he has won by a lot of votes and that states have just been manipulating the ballots, or that their count was off, things like that. And law enforcement has already said that if necessary, they will forcibly remove him from office if he refuses to leave the White House, or if he's just, just continuously denying. Joe Biden's reaction is obviously very different. The elected President Biden and elected Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a victory speech on November 7th, or last night, in Delaware, and I highly recommend watching their speeches. It was actually they were very well spoken and inspirational, and Biden took not a gloating approach or a celebratory approach, more like a thankful and humble approach. He thanked the people for electing him, and he pledges to represent not only those who voted for him, but also those who voted against him. And he takes a unifying kind of perspective to his win. He said multiple times that he does not see blue or red states, only the United States, which I find very powerful because America is very broken right now. I feel like a lot of people can recognize that. So the fact that he's taking an approach of unity and trying to bring everyone together just already instills a sense of hope. And this isn't just me praising Joe Biden. This is me genuinely breaking down his statements. And yeah, it was just very impactful. So I recommend you watching that. It was the victory speech given by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So those are all the main points I have. It's just a quick little episode this week because a lot has been going on in the world, and I just feel like the news is starting to finally calm down. So it was just a really quick little breakdown for you guys of what happened during the election, how it works, and the candidates' reactions. I hope this was helpful to you, and I just want to thank everyone who voted really quickly. I'm still a minor, so I was not able to vote, but I deeply appreciate those who exercised their right to do so, and whether you agree or disagree with the outcome of this election, um, I genuinely challenge you to remain composed, respectful, and civil to those around you, because at the end of the day, we are all Americans, and if you're not from America and you're listening to this podcast, hi. But at the end of the day, most of us listening are Americans just seeking to better our country, and I find our diversity in opinions extremely powerful, and together we can work to better this country for the sake of our well-being and for the well-being of our descendants. And lastly, I just want to congratulate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their successful campaign and victory. Um, we have broken down many barriers in this election, having the oldest elected president, the first woman vice president, the first vice president of color, and the first vice president with immigrant parents. And in my opinion, probably the longest election ever. This was definitely, as I said before, more of an election week rather than election day. But hey, I'm glad it's I'm glad it's over and that we can finally have some peace with the situation, knowing. But I just want to leave you all with a quote really quick. George Washington said, "Human happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected."